I'm trying to lay out the beginning of Crime Inc. because it's much bigger than even I thought it was 2 weeks ago. And you will see it in the coming days and weeks. And I need you to look for this pattern. What are we looking for? We're looking for a group of people, a small group, global, that they believe that there is a threat to the earth, and that threat is rich countries are the problem. They will collapse the industrialized system, Cloward and Piven. They will collapse the system, and they also need to control it, every aspect of it. Okay, so we're at redistribution of wealth with all the president's men, and these are just the rehash of the things that you know. There are a couple of new ones like Maurice Strong. He talks about collapsing the economy. Of course, he doesn't want this. He's just fantasizing about it again. Here he is.
Paradoxically, the way to remove the threat of climate change is for the economy to continue to degenerate. Because as the economy degenerates, of course, there are fewer emissions, and that's actually happening. But to use that as a pretext for saying, well, now we don't have to worry about it, the cost to our economy would be, would we really want to do that? I want to see climate change corrected. In fact, I believe very strongly in it. But I don't want to do it at the expense of a collapsed economy. But a collapsed economy would certainly produce that effect.
Right. He doesn't. Remember, he doesn't want to do that. No. He doesn't want to do that. Remember, what he pushes for wrecks economies. Okay, we know this because of Spain, and we also have been doing our homework on him, and you will meet him in coming days. Now, here's Obama's new nominee for the Center of Medicare and Medicaid. His name is Donald Berwick. What does he say about redistribution of wealth?
Any health care funding plan that is just, equitable, civilized, and humane must redistribute wealth from the richer among us to the poor and the less fortunate. Excellent health care is by definition redistributional.
Okay, how about Joel Rogers, the wizard behind the curtain, greening cities in the name of, again, saving the earth? What did he say?
If you do those 6 things, I think you will be well on your way to actually greening the American economy, and you will grow the wealth, and GE and Cisco and the other people who are announcing great plans should be relatively happy with that. And any environmentalist who's not concerned about the distribution of that wealth should be relatively happy too.
Okay. Van Jones, former Green Job Czar, Green Movement, here it is.
Inside that minimum demand was a very radical kernel that eventually meant that from 1954 to 1968, complete revolution was on the table for this country. And I think that this green movement has to pursue those same steps and stages. Right now we're saying we want to move from suicidal gray capitalism to some kind of eco-capitalism where, at least we're not, fast-tracking the destruction of the whole planet. Will that be enough? No, it won't be enough. We want to go beyond systems of exploitation and oppression altogether, but that's a process.
Okay. Cass Sunstein explains it in this paper entitled Climate Change Justice. Here it is. Redistribution from the United States to poor people in poor nations would be highly desirable, but expenditures on greenhouse gas reductions are a crude means of producing that redistribution. It would be much better to give cash payments directly to people who are now poor. He went on to say, we agree, however, that if the United States does spend a great deal on emission reductions as part of an international agreement, and if the agreement does give particular help to disadvantaged people, considerations of distributed justice support its action even if better redistributive mechanisms are imaginable. Got it? If somebody wants to put together a montage of audio for me of all the people around the president who are crazy capitalists spouting free market ideas, they're just, I got another idea for the free market. Send it to me. Send it to me at becktips@foxnews.com. I think we have enough server space to be able to have all of those emails come in of all of the audio and video of these people saying how great capitalism is. Impossible to find. Now, we're going to take this novel plot line about unbridled capitalism when we come back. All right, America, welcome back to the program. I'm just showing you here some things that I know that we have gone over this ground, but I need to make sure that you have the foundations of where we're headed. We are trying to look for people, a group of people, small group, global, that believe there's a threat to the earth, and the threat really is coming from the rich countries, and so they believe it's their duty to collapse the system, collapse those rich countries. But if you do that, you need to have control. Control. Now, this one's starting to be a dicey one, and this one actually is, this one should keep you up at night. Controlling speech, because this one's everywhere right now. The White House, of course, you know, called Fox out as illegitimate. You know, I ask you if you've ever heard a White House denounce news networks before or try to cut them out of press pools, but this one did. Here's Anita Dunn saying a little bit about it.
Let's not pretend they're a news network. Fox News often operates almost as either the research arm or the communications arm of the Republican Party.
Okay, we're not even talking about the Republican Party. We're talking about people who believe in redistribution of wealth, okay? The president himself has called me and Rush troublesome. You know this.
I mean, I think that when you listen to Rush Limbaugh or Glenn Beck,
it's beyond that.
It's pretty apparent, and it's troublesome.
Okay. He has bashed 24/7 cable news and talk radio just this last weekend.
Meanwhile, you're coming of age in a 24/7 media environment that bombards us with all kinds of content and exposes us to all kinds of arguments, some of which don't always rank that high on the truth meter.
Okay. He's talking here about sometimes just information. Information is confusing, and it's troublesome. It's troublesome. Okay, where is he going on this? Well, we'll tell you here in a second, but also the White House now is completely bypassing the press whenever it can. Even NBC's Andrea Mitchell complained that the White House was crossing all kinds of lines, those are a quote, as they keep Supreme Court Justice nominee Elena Kagan away from the press, except for one interview. Who was the interview with? This new internal White House media. Never heard of it? Oh, yeah, no, this is one of the first things they set up. An in-house media. They posted this on the internet.
But the White House has gone overboard, I think some would suggest, in terms of the control of all of this. They've posted a sort of pseudo-interview on their website, and it appears that she is speaking in her own words, being interviewed, and it turns out that the interviewer is not a journalist, it's a White House staff member. Doesn't this seem to you like they are really crossing a number of lines here when it comes to journalism and the proper approach to selling a justice?
Okay, do you have the clip of what they posted online or not? Okay, you'll have to go online. I guess we're not going to engage in that. Now, why is she complaining? This is not an isolated incident. Do you remember when the White House did their own media report on the visit by the Lady Huskies basketball team? Do you remember this? Here's the video. Okay, they did this whole thing, but this is a Huskies basketball. Okay, but they did cuts, they did interviews with everybody else. No one was allowed to ask a question, but it's Huskies. Now no one is allowed to ask any questions of the nominee for the Supreme Court Justice. I mean, we're talking now a lifetime. Well, we've got to read a 1996 paper in which she wrote, quote, "If there is an overabundance of an idea in the absence of direct governmental action, which there might well be when compared with some ideal state of public debate, then action disfavoring that idea might unskew rather than skew public discourse." Okay, so if that's too much, if there's too much dangerous Glenn Beck or Rush Limbaugh, or too much talk radio, action by the government can unskew things and balance out the opinion. You see, that's your new Supreme Court nominee. Oh, and in a completely unrelated story, Kagan happens to be a big fan of Cass Sunstein. She said, quote, Cass Sunstein is the preeminent legal scholar of our time, the most wide-ranging, the most prolific, the most cited, and the most influential. Cass Sunstein, who I maintain is the most dangerous man in America.